Welcome to the Washdown Podcast, episode number 65, with special guest Kip Nelson. And Kip has been a pastor for almost 30 years, the last 20 years at Legacy Christian Church. He is a chaplain for the Lee Summit Police Department in Lee Summit, Missouri, and a peer support coordinator. He is also on the board of directors for First Midwest, which is a nonprofit for peer support. And he is also involved with West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat, WCPR. So he's a pretty busy guy, and he's been married to his wife, Catherine, for 30 years and has 3 grown kids. We have a great conversation with Kip. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of great information. We had a great time doing it. So here you go, episode 65 of the Washdown Podcast with guest Kip Nelson.
Same video I posted last year. I just reposted it because the circumstances were the same.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
And this year it took off.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think there were enough frustrated Packers fans from last year to this year when you see the exact same thing happening again.
And then they extend his contract.
It ain't his fault.
Right?
It's the coach's fault. It's 100% Matt LaFleur's fault. He is the Marty Schottenheimer of modern day coaching. You're gonna get 12 to 13 wins in the regular season. You're gonna look like world beaters, and as soon as you get into the playoffs, he's gonna lay the biggest egg he can possibly lay.
You know,
Even
if
after
he
a
would have
bye.
just got
Yeah.
vaccinated, it'd have been fine.
Oh, my God.
Suck it, Packers.
Hey, just letting you know, our tight end had more touchdown passes in the playoffs than your quarterback did. Just saying. Just saying.
That's great.
It's out there.
Hey,
It's out there.
did your team play in the Super Bowl?
We made it further
No.
than your team.
You still ended the season with a loss. That's the thing.
That's very true. That's very true.
The difference was we got a week of rest before the loss.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
I don't see the
These
point.
guys.
We've also been in 2 consecutive Super Bowls. We got to let other teams in there, you know?
Uh-huh.
We're starting to turn into the Patriots of the league.
Whoa!
Hey,
Do not put that on our team.
Hey, that's just what
Wow.
I saw the week of. Like, everyone wanted the Bengals to win in the AFC Championship because they're tired of seeing us in the AFC Championship.
The other teams can do better.
Hey, trust me, I don't care.
Here's a suggestion: don't suck.
Well, I totally agree with you because I can at least say I've been a Chiefs fan my entire life.
Oh, yeah, I
and
grew up a
so
Chiefs fan.
so with this hatred, I was like, I've loved this team, and the fact that you guys are now starting to hate it, there it is. Finally.
I love the Chiefs as long as they're not playing the Packers.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
I will go all out for the Chiefs as long as they're not playing the Packers.
I hear you.
There you go.
You got your loyalties.
Well, I mean, for the longest time, they did spring training together.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Chiefs used to go up to Wisconsin, and that's where they had their spring training camp until they moved it
Oh,
to
that's
St.
right.
Joe.
That's
Yeah.
right. Black
So
River
they-
Falls.
Yeah. So they would
They
just
play each other all the time.
Yeah.
And scrimmage and all that.
See, I'm a Wisconsin boy, so, you know.
And that makes sense. That makes sense.
Even though I've been down here longer than I was up there, you know, once I graduated high school, I left. And,
Yeah.
It's Wisconsin. I don't blame you.
oh, man,
Been
Wisconsin's
there.
amazing,
once,
man.
Once was enough.
Wisconsin's nice.
It is.
I've never been. It's just I would have to go during the summer because I am not a winter guy.
Well, so the last time that I went to Wisconsin was for Packers playoff game against the 49ers. And it was negative 25 degrees at kickoff.
That sounds miserable.
So we got up the next morning. I mean, still like
Picked up your toes off the ground.
not happy from the loss, but it was so cold that driving back on the interstate, like the exhaust from the cars was coming up and like freezing onto the back of the car. Like we followed an 18-wheeler into Iowa that just from the cab all the way back to the trailer, probably 2-3 inches thick of ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not my weather.
The difference is they know how to dress for the weather up there.
That is true.
And they know how to drive in the snow.
Yeah. And they know how to clear the snow off the roads.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
we have it from November through March.
He said November. You mean August.
It starts to cool off in August, yeah.
Everybody's in sweatshirts. Hey, man, I enjoyed summer from July 1st to July 5th.
Then fall. And yeah.
No, I when we were up there, I liked it. It was wintertime, but it wasn't bad. And Green Bay was awesome. I loved it.
That's a neat community.
Yeah. The stadium was awesome. We did the tour.
Yeah.
It's always nice whenever your stadium is in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
With a Kmart right next to it.
It's like, where do we park? Oh, right here on the street. Like, oh, okay.
Or on their yard.
Yeah. I was like,
They're making
weird.
a fortune off that.
Oh, they are.
I would just get rid of my yard and blacktop it. 'Cause you already got a snow blower. It's given to you when you turn 18 in Wisconsin.
It's a graduation gift.
Yeah. Everybody gets one. Gets state funded. They go ahead and just blacktop your
State
yard.
funded. Snowblowing 101. It's one of your freshman college prereqs.
I figured you guys learned that in like 5th grade, so you can operate one safely.
5th grade? We didn't wait that long.
Well, I mean, you do it by hand before then.
Yeah,
Then-
but remember, everybody from Wisconsin's a little bit bigger than everybody down here, so
That is true.
yeah,
That is true.
it's all the cheese curds, which are delicious, by the way.
They are delicious.
You know how to check you know how to tell when the cheese curds are fresh?
Uh-uh.
They squeak when you chew them. True story. We used to get them when they were still warm, and you chew on them and they squeak on your teeth.
Well, there you go.
Oh man,
wow.
I didn't know that.
I am getting.
I just thought they were really
hungry.
good.
Can honestly say I've never eaten a cheese curd. So
What?
Oh.
No.
The cheese curds, the brats,
big
the brats were
cheese.
really
Brats?
good. I'm a brat guy anyway.
Yeah, I'm a brat guy.
They were really good up there, and the beer was awesome.
The thing is, here they don't have brat buns.
You
got-
do.
It's a very
You
small
gotta search
section.
for them,
Yeah.
and they're like $12 a bun.
Yeah. that
But the thing is, up there, I'm Norwegian, so up there we eat lefse. Instead of a flour tortilla, it's potato. So good. You can find it here at some Hy-Vees.
my mind is
I've
just
never-
expanding with all this
Yeah.
food.
That
Sounds delicious.
sounds like some new recipes I'm going to have to try at the station.
Perfect place to try them too. You
Yep.
didn't like it? Shut up and eat.
Go get your own.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget to Venmo me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know
see,
the
police,
rules.
police officers don't have time to eat at the station.
No.
They don't. Yeah.
Well, we're not going to go there, though. are we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
we're
go
still,
to-
we're still gonna win.
Yeah. They go to. There's a Quick Trip on every corner.
Yeah,
It's
like
true.
a built-in satellite location for them.
Yeah.
Besides, it's not like you can't come to the station and get a meal.
Yeah.
We got plenty of food.
It's not like we don't
You
invite
think I
them all
got
the
fat
time.
just by not eating all day?
Well,
Come on.
good
I-
job, sir.
I just met you, so I'm not going to contribute to that one.
Feel free to pile
Yeah.
on.
Not that I'm saying you're fat.
Oh, I'm fat. I know I am. and I've gained weight being off some surgery too. I'm like, this sucks. I can't win.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I gain weight just by looking at food. So
I can't look at it and not eat it.
right,
You can't put Oreos in front of me.
they won't stay there.
No, I'll eat the whole sleeve. I don't care.
You remember what you said upstairs before we came downstairs? What you told Joey about hearing your sob story?
Oh, this ain't. No, I'm bragging. This is a brag.
Listen, I can down a whole thing of Oreos.
Right. And not the little.
Double stuff.
Oh, double stuff is.
And now they got mega stuff. I don't know if you know this.
I haven't tried those yet.
I've got them. I haven't opened it yet.
I
because
just
I'm scared of
I
them.
feel like it's.
I was like, it's huge.
How do you buy a package of Oreos and not open it?
I'm not gonna lie, I do that too sometimes. It kind of is like it's a build up factor. It's like, man, I'm really not feeling it right now. It's like once you have that dinner, you're like,
Yeah,
man, some
usually.
Oreos would really hit hard right now. And sure enough, they're gone.
I mean, I've had Oreos for lunch.
That was
here's-
your lunch?
That was my lunch. Yeah. We didn't have it. We hadn't gone to the store, and I was like, man, I'm starving. And I'm looking, and like, Oreos and milk it is.
It's the new red meat.
Have
It
you
was
had
delicious.
Have you had the banana split Oreos?
Yes, they're disgusting.
They're probably the best Oreos of all time.
Why would I take advice on Oreos from a skinny guy?
Because unlike you, I
I mean,
can't
are you going to
just,
listen to me on workout advice? No, shut up.
Dude.
Freaking Oreos. Listen to fat guy.
Unlike you, I don't eat just one sleeve. I eat the whole package and still look like this. So
You're eating a single serving
genetics,
package.
Trust me, it'll change.
Everybody keeps telling me that, and I'm 42, and it hasn't changed yet.
I graduated high school with a 28-inch waist. It ain't 28 inches anymore.
One side?
My thigh.
Wow. Well, on that note, Kip, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So obviously we've kind of touched on the fact that you are from Wisconsin. So why don't you give us a little background, tell us what you do and why you're here.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and graduated high school in the late 80s. I'll just leave it there. And went down to Joplin, Missouri to Ozark Christian College.
Okay.
Where I majored in music, yeah. And so I've been a pastor now for 30 years. I don't do the music thing anymore. But I still play drums when I get a chance, but I don't lead it anymore. I've moved on to other things. So I was a campus pastor for 13 years, which means that the church I serve at, called Legacy Christian Church here in Kansas City, we have multiple campuses, and I was able to lead one of those campuses. And in the community that I live in, I'm able to serve our local police force and the men and women of that agency, and it's just great to be there. And through that, I've just gotten more passion for first responders and just getting to know them, getting opportunities to serve them. I've gotten connected into peer support. I'm a co-leader there in our agency. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. And through that, I've gotten connected to First Midwest, which is an incredible organization serving our first responders in multiple different facets, and been able to also serve with the Midwest Post-Trauma Retreat as well, so helping people through their trauma. I serve in those capacities as chaplain as well. And so I get to just get involved and encourage them and help in any way that I can. So it's just incredible to be a part of this. I appreciate you having me here tonight.
Oh, well, definitely thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So as a chaplain, I mean, so tell us a little bit about that. Like, what does that entail with the peer support and the WCPR and all that stuff? Like, what is the role of a chaplain in that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities between chaplaincy and peer support, but there's also a lot of differences.
Right.
Right. So when people hear chaplain, they automatically think what?
Bible.
Yeah, religion.
Yeah.
They're here to force religion down my throat. They're here to, change my moral value. Well, that's not our role. Even as a chaplain to first responders, my role is not to change your moral values. It's not to change your way of thinking. It's not to preach to you. My role is to come in and support you and encourage you and your family and the community at the agency in which you serve. I come alongside our officers, and I'm with them when we do death notifications. When somebody loses a loved one, if they're having a hard time coping, they call myself or one of our other chaplains in, where we get to come alongside the family and just try to be that help in that tremendous time of need. And, of course, so much of what we do as a chaplain to be effective is establishing relationships. It's getting connected. It's getting to know our personnel on a personal level. It's knowing what's going on in their lives so that if and when crisis hits in their life, we have a relationship where they know we're safe to come to. They can talk to us. We can be there for them, just like any of their peers. Well, that's where it came in that I had the opportunity to join our peer support team, because I had established a healthy relationship with so many of our officers. And I was able to be there in times of crisis where we've lost officers, and I'm able to be there, and we've got the relationship, and they trust me to open up and share. I've gotten to know their families, where I can be there for them, whether they lose a loved one or whatever it is. But then on the peer support side, when there's struggle at work, or maybe it's a scene that they've had to work, or they're just having a hard time processing, again, they use me as they would any other peer support member. And but they know that I'm not going to try to grow my church
Right.
through what I'm doing at the agency. And just the opportunities through peer support and chaplaincy, I was able to get connected with First Midwest, which led to the opportunity with WCPR. And it's just been a great great experience. When I say WCPR, I'm always afraid I'm going to say WKRP.
That's what I was waiting on. I'm like, where's the Cincinnati part?
We're going to start dropping turkeys from a helicopter, and But
that's all I heard. I'm sorry.
yeah, they call me Les.
I can see it. I can see it.
It's just been incredible, though, to be able to serve the men and women and expand from beyond the local police department to connecting with the firefighters in our community and some of the EMTs, and you see them on scene and you get to follow up with them. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the biggest things, and I think it kind of transcends the whole peer support thing. It goes along with, obviously chaplaincy, but then therapists and counselors as well, is being able to build that relationship. Because in our line of work, trust is a huge thing, because we have to trust each other with our lives. Not to be overly dramatic, but, whenever we're going to a call, get to a call, if it's a house fire or a car wreck or something, we're depending on each other to, we're all trying to keep each other safe and still do the job. And when you can't depend on somebody, it gets known pretty quick, and it's like, okay, I know I can't trust that person, so I'm not going to.
Absolutely.
And all it takes is that one bad experience, and then it's like, okay, well, that guy? Yeah, no, don't trust him.
Right. Well, and then you compound that with, here's this outsider coming in,
Yeah.
who isn't a firefighter, who isn't a police officer, coming in. So that's one hard thing to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come in and they're a pastor on top of that, which has this stigma, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when I first started doing this over 7 years ago, I feel like I can talk to pretty much anybody, right? And just hold a semi-intelligent conversation from my side, But I got in there and I started going, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it, because every time I walk into a room, everything stops.
Mm-hmm.
It's every room you walk into, you feel like they're talking about you, because when you walk in, conversation's done.
Oh, yeah.
And then
they know you're coming.
yeah. The radio goes off.
Yeah.
But then you're sitting there, and I'd go into shift brief, and I start hearing them talking. They're not stopping the conversations now, and at least one or two of them say hi, but they're still at that point where they apologize to me before they cuss. Sorry, Chaplain, and they lay it out there, And I'm like, hey, no need to apologize. You're fine. You're not offending me. All this stuff, and eventually you start to break through. And it's when you get to walk in, and those officers or those firefighters are who they are, whether you're there or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest compliment they can pay you.
And it's like, okay, I feel like I'm in. Unfortunately, in my situation, to totally break through that was the loss of one of our officers, right?
Yeah.
But as tragic as that was, it allowed me to become more effective within our own agency, right?
Yeah.
And it's been incredible. So now when I go on scene, whether it's a death notification, whether I'm called to a scene, yes, I'm focusing on the family that suffered a loss, but just as much I'm focusing on our officers. How are they holding up? Hopefully I know enough about what's going on in their lives that if it's too close to home, I can know what's going on and I can follow up with them, make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah.
And so you guys, you first responders are definitely a hard group to break into.
Will neither confirm nor deny that.
Oh, I will take care of that right now. But it really is. I consider it a tremendous honor to be considered part of the first responder family. It's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
It didn't just happen.
Yeah.
But it's a privilege.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It does, like you said, it does take a lot of work, because we are, for all of our, being out in the community and stuff like that, we are still pretty closed off. If you're not one of us, then you're not one of us.
Yeah.
And it does take some time, but we let people in.
Oh yeah. Well, then you get, the thing with the police officers, you get in their car, that's their office.
Mm-hmm.
It's their carfus, and so you get in there, and man, you need to know how to read people.
I can see that.
on a lot of the officers, you can tell when they've had enough. You know?
Usually that's about the time the handcuffs go on.
That's right. When they ask me to sit in the back seat, I know I've gone too far.
Before they put it in drive in the parking lot, is what you're saying?
That's right. That's right. No, it is nice though, because it is at a time in our agency where anymore I go in, I've got my gear and my go bag in my car, because anytime I go in just for a shift brief or whatever it is, listen, if an officer says, "Hey, you riding today? You want to jump in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll jump in with you." You know, because I don't know if they've got something they want to talk about or if they just want somebody in the car. But man, if I get invited to go, I'm going to go, because that's an opportunity to encourage them. This is a tough time to be a first responder.
Yeah.
And I think it's more so on their end.
Oh, absolutely.
Than ours.
And we're fortunate that in the community in which I live, we've got great support from our community, but it's still a hard time with what you see on the news and
politicians.
Yeah. Well, and it's still got to be in the back of their mind of, well, yeah, I have the support now, but what if? And what if this thing happens or that thing happens? And then how is it going to be portrayed? You know, because I've talked to guys and girls that are on the police department that, I mean, they're legitimately worried about that. They can do everything by the book and still end up going to prison.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, then you got the jury of public opinion.
Yeah.
And, you know, most people have a social media account of some sort.
Well, yeah.
And then you got, you know, so that something happens while they're at work, and then, of course, news reports on it, and you get not even a third of the facts, you know, let's say an eighth. And people made up their mind already, and they see all these nasty comments coming down, and it's just, that weighs on you.
Absolutely.
And I just moved districts. This past weekend. But the district I was in before, I lost count of the number of calls that I was on where it was just a routine, like, you know, EMS call or whatever, and there were multiple cameras recording us. Like, we're there, we're actively helping people. That's why we go. I mean, we're not arresting anybody. We're not taking anybody to jail. We're not doing anything like that. They called us because they're hurt, they're sick, they're whatever, and we're there putting them on a cot into the ambulance, and we're being videotaped. And it's like, you have nothing better to do.
No, they don't. That's why they're standing with a video camera trying to find a reason to get you in trouble.
Well,
it is crazy. And, you know, we're fortunate, again, where I have the opportunity to serve, to be in a community where police and fire work so well together. You know, they're unified. And I know that there are some communities that's not the case. But to be in so many organizations within the Kansas City area where they got each other's backs.
Yeah.
You know, because the job, whether it's police, fire, EMT, whatever it is, the job is stressful enough.
It absolutely is.
You know, man, if we've got that camaraderie between agencies to support each other when we get these rubberneckers and the people with the cameras, that we got each other's backs.
Yeah.
You know, and just knowing that, hey, I've got these guys that have my back. I got these chaplains that have my back. I've got, you know, I'll tell you, I'll defend anybody that's a first responder in our community with everything I got. You know, of course, I live by the thing, you know, privately confront, publicly defend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I understand that.
I'm
more of a I'm a wait and see. I want to see all the information first.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon of being
on either side.
On either side, yeah.
And
because,
I mean, we're human. We're gonna make mistakes.
You know, it's really hard to. So many times where I'm sitting at a coffee shop, just minding my own business. I hear people talking about something that's gone on. And I'm sitting there going, man, your facts are so far off, but I can't correct you.
Yeah.
I can't say anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can talk till you're blue in the face, but you can find whatever you want to confirm whatever you believe on your phone, on your computer, whatever.
It's so easy to distort facts.
Yeah.
It
So
is. And then you go into a peer support debrief or something of this nature. And
I'm going to move that mic a little closer to your face.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like I said, like I told him, you can take it with you.
I keep moving my chair away.
Yeah.
I keep hitting the table. So, but it's one of those things where you go into a debrief with first responders that have been through a crisis or a scene that's been difficult, and you feel the pain, you feel the weight that they're carrying, and they may not even recognize it themselves. But to be in that setting where it's safe and they're not being forced to talk or say anything, and be able to process that in a healthy setting with other people that understand, and to have a culturally competent counselor there, it's such a blessing that we've got such an active peer support within our agencies here in the Kansas City area. It's just incredible, because the world is it's a tough place.
Yeah.
And we need that support.
So I want to back up a second, because I had a question pop into my head a few minutes ago whenever you were talking about, you would go in for, shift briefs or whatever, and then if somebody wanted you to ride in the car, you would. So I know you wanted, and that's one of the things with peer support and being a chaplain or a counselor or whatever, you kind of, with these populations, it's not a 9 to 5, hey, I understand, don't call me after 5. It's not one of those things, because, my wife is a counselor, and that we deal with that as well of, things happen at odd times and hours and whatever. How do you separate that and make sure that you're not overcommitting to that stuff and keeping that kind of your home life, and not letting it bleed over too much?
Well, it's hard, because even as a pastor, it's
yeah,
time demanding, right? I can get called out. Somebody's loved one is passed, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there's two highly time consuming worlds that are colliding.
Yeah. You're probably the wrong person. I shouldn't have asked that question.
No, but it's a fair question, because you've got to have that balance. Number one, I'm just going to clarify it right now. I'm married so far out of my league, it's not even funny. Right? I've got an amazing wife who's highly supportive of not just my ministry at the church, but my service at the agency. Right? And she is such a blessing, because when there's an officer or a family in need, and I say, hey, I've got to go, I've got this, she's like, go, do your thing, Now, if I'm out on a date, I may say, hey, can you call one of the other chaplains,
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where in our agency, we've got several chaplains. And so we have a rotation set up. So I'm not on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Okay.
Right. So we got chaplains that are on rotation.
Okay.
Now, in the event that a chaplain that's on rotation is on another call, which rarely happens, or for some reason they don't hear their phone, I may get a call for that. But as a volunteer, because everything I do for first responders is volunteer, right? Which I don't mind. I'm passionate about what I do. As a volunteer, I can always say no. I don't know that I ever have. But I can always say no, and the agency understands that. But it really is, when I'm going to be out of town, or if I know I'm going to be out of pocket, I'll let the dispatch know. They're the ones who call us. I'll let them know, hey, I'm not going to be available on these dates, so that they don't, time is of the essence.
Right.
You know that. And so I don't want them to call me when I know I'm not going to be available. Right.
Yeah.
So we got family in town this weekend. We're going to a concert tomorrow night. I probably wouldn't even hear my phone ring. Right.
You didn't go to the Journey concert last night?
I wish. I wish. But no, it's just one of those things where, we're ready in the moment, but it is hard to balance time with family, career, and, the agency.
And I see that with this side of it. And then I also see it with, police officers and firefighters, of balancing that work and home life, because a lot of us tend to we're 100% work.
Mhm.
You know, it's, hey, I'm working overtime, I'm doing this and it's all about the fire department or the police department or whatever it is. And then the family kind of takes a back seat.
Absolutely. I mean, you're hey, we're going to pick up overtime. We're going to do these things. And a lot of times, from friends that I've got that are firefighters, they work as a firefighter these days of the week, and then they're out painting houses or doing something else the rest of the week. I mean, there's that same tension that's there, you know. And for me, I try to use a lot of times when I go to the agency, you know, just to go to a shift brief or just go up and check on dispatch or whatever. A lot of times, my kids are grown. My kids are 19, 20, and 23, you know, and so my kids are out doing their things. If my wife is out at a meeting or doing something for church or whatever, and I know that they're not going to be home, that's a great time for me to go by the agency, right? I'm not taking away from them. You know, I get to be there to just visit with officers or whatever, you know. So I try to be smart in my time management there. But I also try to be observant of, you know, my family probably needs me at home right now. I've been gone 3 nights this week. I probably don't need to make it a 4th right now.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got to be aware of that. And as gracious as my wife is with my time, she's not afraid to say, we need some too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's key for any relationship, I think, is to be able to be honest with each other like that.
Yeah,
like,
because we're going on 30 years. In May, it'll be 30 years that we've been married, and it's great. And of course, we've got a grandson now, and I've determined that grandkids make kids worth it. So
you'll probably find that out soon enough.
No.
But it's one of those things where, you know, we still want to balance that to have that quality uninterrupted time.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and I've talked with Rachel about this a little bit, it also sets a good example for the people that you're trying to help, I think.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
like, hey, you know, I'm here to help you, yes, but also you need to stop doing what you're doing. You can't spend all your time. You know, there's life outside of the police department, the fire department, you know, and that's a huge thing. And whenever you talk about, you know, PTSD and depression and things like that, it's like, okay, well, you had all of these hobbies before you came on, or even halfway through your career, and now you don't do any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, you know, I hang out with the guys, and, you know, I work this overtime, and then I got my part-time job, and then I'm running this business, and I'm doing this and doing that. And okay, dude, you have to slow down. You have to, you can't run at 100 miles an hour all the time. Eventually that train will stop.
Well, it's not healthy emotionally or relationally.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not. But I think the other side is true too. In my case, as a volunteer, it's when an officer knows that, hey, I left my time at home because you had a need, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a big thing. And, you know, we had a situation several years ago where we had officers involved in a shooting. And I love this because I get this call. It's like 12:30 in the morning. Hey, Kip, we've had this critical incident at the agency, and one of our officers requested you. You know, it's like, I don't need all that. But anyways, I get to the agency and I go into this officer and I say, hey, man, what's going on? How you doing? He goes, oh, nothing. I'm fine. He goes, I said, okay, well, they said you requested me. He goes, yeah. I figured if we're going to sit here all night, you may as well be here too. But you know what? Number one, I took that as a compliment.
Yeah.
But number two, I was there until they were done with everything at 6:30 in the morning. Right? And I had solid, they couldn't talk to each other because of a policy and processes.
Yeah.
But I was able to visit with all of them. And, support them and encourage them. And now I didn't get much sleep. I didn't get any sleep that night,
Yeah.
but I still found time for my family the next day. Right.
Yeah.
And that was actually on my birthday. Right? So I will forever remember it. But it's just one of those things, though, where I gave up on that sleep gladly to support our officers. But then I gladly stayed awake so I could spend time with my family. Right. So I could keep that that balance there.
Yeah.
And so it's work. It's got to be intentional.
Yes.
But family has to be a priority, whether you've got small children or whether you're empty nesters, just you and your wife, because we have to fill the emotional tanks of our spouse. And part of that is quality time, right? It's not being at home when you're working overnight shifts and coming home, sleeping all day while they're at work, and then they come home and we're sitting on our phones in front of the TV.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what? Put the phone down. Put the phone down. Let it go. Focus on your spouse. Focus on your children.
If you don't put the phone down, though, how am I supposed to watch TikTok and meet famous people on TikTok if I don't have my phone in my hand?
First off, you gotta raise the bar of your goals in
I don't
life.
know. Over 4 million views. I don't know how many likes. I might have to dig it out and look.
That was just
See how he set it up? He knew.
I knew where you were going.
He knew. He's like, I'm going to get him to talk about my TikTok video. Watch.
No, that's
exactly what you did.
That didn't even cross my mind.
The bait
I knew
is
what you
set.
were doing.
No, my whole point before taking out of context.
I'll take the bait every time. I knew what you were doing.
No, my whole point was that it's that focused time. It's our kids know when we're distracted. Our spouses know when we're distracted, whether it's because of these portable devices or stress from the job. They know when we're disconnected, right? And we've got to be present when we have that limited time at home.
Yeah.
It's man, I'll tell you what, I get done with church on a Sunday morning. I just put in 5 hours and I'm spent. You may go, how's the pastor spent on Sunday? It actually is a lot of work, and I get home and I'm spent, but you know what? My 2.5-year-old grandson comes to the house. He grabs my pinky and he says, get on the floor and play. What do you think I'm going to do?
Getting on the floor.
Get on the floor and play. It may not be very long because of my back, but I'm going to do it because that's what he's wanting. He wants that time, and attention.
Yeah. And that's something that you never get back. The time it only goes one way.
Yep.
And whenever it's gone, it's gone.
As a pastor and even as a chaplain, I didn't want my kids growing up resenting the church or resenting the agency because it took Dad away. Right? So I had to be intentional. I tell you what, talking to my kids this week, every family has their challenges. We've gone through some stuff just like any other family. And my son, it just says, you guys have always been there. You've never missed a ball game. You've never, and I'm sitting there going, wow, you noticed.
Oh yeah.
But it's there. And I'm not only was I at the game, but I wasn't on my phone while I was at the game.
Right.
Even on the court, my kids were basketball players. My boys were. Even on the court, they knew.
Oh yeah.
Right. Hey, Dad, you went out. Where'd you go during the game? Oh, I had to take a phone call. They pick it up.
Oh yeah.
It's even more so at home.
I always noticed.
Yeah.
So
now when I was growing up, we didn't have these things. I grew up before the internet.
So did I.
I'm an old guy.
Yeah. I remember when the internet came out.
Yeah. When Al Gore created it.
Yeah.
Joey, do you need explanation for that?
No, I was, I was. What was it like before the? No, I was.
We used to play outside.
Hey, I was the same way. There was a time where my grandma, I would be at my grandma's house and she's on the internet and I would try and call my mom and you just hear that tone and it's like, oh, no, get off the phone. I'm on the internet. I'm like, all right, cool.
I remember in our entertainment, we used to have these phones that were called landlines. where they hang on the wall.
And you had to dial them like,
Yeah.
Oh, the rotary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or eventually they moved into push button. But I remember the days where the entertainment was trying to quietly pick up the phone on the other end to listen in on the conversation.
Yep.
You know?
You heard that little click?
Yep.
Or the party lines. My wife had, their family had party lines where the neighbors shared the same line.
oh, yeah.
Everybody's phone would ring, and
Yeah, yeah.
you don't hear about those very often.
No.
She had one of the phones where you had to crank it.
Yeah. Did not have that. I do remember the payphones, you know?
Yep. I remember calling mom and dad 1-800-COLLECT, and hey, it's me. Come pick me up. Click.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I'm just glad I never had to call from the police station.
Yep. Never did that.
I still kind of think about like if something was to happen, who's my first to call? Because like it used to be, I would think my parents, but no, they are terrible at answering their phones. So it's like if they're only going to give me one phone call, I got to have a reliable person to call.
Who's going to pick up an unknown number? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, back then, I mean, not very often was there like like you have the caller ID now, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is from Syracuse. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's spam. So
Yeah.
you know, it's just one of those things. Yeah. So for me, I was like, man, if something weird was to happen,
I know who I'm calling. 911. They got all my information. Call my wife. Tell her I'm in this jail. I'm here to
that's
identify
a good
myself.
idea.
You know what's interesting is our officers go through, and you guys probably have something similar to this, where it's the emergency list if something happens to you
Yeah.
while you're on the job and
Contact
so forth.
list, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember we were updating those a few years ago. They just did it agency wide, and I had, I don't know, at least 8 or 9 officers come up. Hey, just so you know, you're the one they're calling, so you can tell my wife. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
You know.
Appreciate that, bud.
You know, but at the same token, it's humbling and it's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That means you're in.
You know, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's fun to call these first responders brothers and sisters, right? It's just we had lost another officer several years ago, and following the funeral that I was honored to do, the widow and several of our officers came up and said, "Hey, we're gonna go out and get tattoos on Friday." The service was on a Wednesday, and they said, "Would you go with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go with you." So we met for lunch, and I go in with them. They're all on, getting their tattoos and stuff. And all of a sudden, one of them comes up and goes, "What are you getting?" I go, "Huh?"
Say what now?
They said, "Well, what are you getting?" And I'm like, I pull up my phone. I typed in Thin Blue Line Flag, and I tattoo, and I scanned it through. I said, "That one's kind of cool." And they go, "Oh yeah, it is." So I've got.
Wow.
And now I already had one on this arm, but I go home. My wife goes, "I knew you'd do it."
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought I was just going,
Come on, Kip. You didn't think you were just going.
I did. But anyways, it's.
You don't go to a tattoo shop just to be moral support for a friend. It's always.
I went to be moral support for like 6 friends.
Yeah.
That's even worse. Yeah, that's even
That's a
worse.
lot of peer pressure. You're getting
Yeah,
a tattoo.
it's happening.
No, I mean, it was just, I really did. As naive as I am, I did. I just went to be support. Now, I wasn't against getting the tattoo. I just didn't want to, I didn't go planning on doing it.
Right.
But man, when they asked, especially due to the occasion,
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
all right, this is an honor. And, it's cool because we see each other and we see those tattoos that we all got, and we remember him, but we also remember our other fallen brothers and sisters, and it's just, it's interesting to watch an agency grieve, right? I'm sure it's the same thing in the firehouse. It's your family.
Yeah. Well, we spend so much of our time together, so much of our lives. We're together for 24 hours, sometimes longer than that, depending on what type of shift you work or overtime or whatever. So, I mean, you can develop pretty close bonds with the people that you work with.
Absolutely. And then like you mentioned earlier, you've got the trust factor.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong, that's a whole nother layer to process through.
Yep.
And that's where I'm so grateful for peer support. I'm so grateful for First Midwest and all these other organizations that are out there to provide the support and the resources.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, and we've kind of talked about this, touched on this before on this podcast, of the demand isn't going down. The demand is going up for resources, and we have a finite amount of resources. So I don't know, something needs to change, whether it's, preventative or whatever, just to kind of take that burden off. But that's a whole nother conversation. And how do you get that started, and what is it, and what does it look like? And so, yeah, I mean, because I know WCPR, so Rachel's doing that in next week?
2 weeks.
2 weeks,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I mean, you guys have space for 5 or 6 people.
Right.
That's it. Well, that's I don't want to, I'm not meaning it in a bad way, but it's a drop in the bucket.
Right.
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 So there's so many people that need help, and what needs to happen?
Right.
How do we take what is legitimately, I mean, we've thrown around the word pandemic for the last 2 years, but it's at that level. We have more deaths by suicide than we have line of duty deaths. So, I mean, what do we need to do? How can we move forward? And at least, I don't think you're ever going to stop it and make that number 0. I don't think that's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you bring that number back down to where, and I don't want to say acceptable because it's not acceptable, but to a lower level. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, again, we can go back and say resources. Well,
Yeah.
A, the resources have to be available.
Mm-hmm.
B, the first responders have to be willing to reach out and get the resources and utilize the resources,
Yeah.
whether it's their EAP or whatever it is. Isn't that what's called, EAP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. But that's one of the big challenges too, is we can have resources available. We can have peer support available. But if it's not visible, if it's not credible, if it's not available, it's not going to be utilized.
Well, and that's the thing, is the credibility. That's what a lot of it boils down to. We're starting to see in a lot of departments a culture shift to where it's more acceptable to reach out for mental health support and resources. And we're just lagging behind and remember what I said earlier of, this one person went to this therapist or counselor or peer support member and they had a bad experience. Okay, well, that taints the whole program now.
Absolutely.
So I think it's something that we need to be very cautious and very protective of to make sure that doesn't happen, because one bad experience can ruin a program.
And that experience could be ill-equipped or culturally incompetent counselor. It could be a breach of confidence by one of their own peers or a chaplain. You know what I'm saying? There's so many layers to that.
Yeah.
And we're in such an interesting time. I've said this before, and I don't know if it makes sense to you guys or not, but for so many years, the mindset was suppress, suppress, suppress. Just pull up the bootstraps and keep going. Then we've got these guys coming in who suddenly this peer support's available, and they're going, all right, if you're that weak that you need to use it, go ahead. So now you got these young guys that want to be something in these older guys' eyes, and they're like, I don't know what to do. And then you get these young guys that are coming in right now. Their way of processing is by throwing it all out there on social media, which isn't healthy either.
Yeah. I've actually had that conversation of maybe you shouldn't post that.
Right. And so it's really interesting because I've had to have the same conversation, and because everybody wants to offer their opinion, they want to offer their solution, but they don't understand the culture. They don't understand what they're really trying to process. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I haven't been in a fraction of the incidents that first responders have been in. I've been some pretty awful things, right? But we can't, unless you're in there, you don't understand what these first responders are processing, right? So how do we get that support for them without forcing it on them? The first thing is they've got to be willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what does it take to make them willing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and unfortunately, it's either a catastrophic event or a cultural change, usually due to a catastrophic event. We are professional problem solvers. That's a problem that we're not very good at solving right now.
Well, it's like the mechanic drives the worst cars. Yeah.
Yeah. After a day of fixing other people's problems, do you really want to work on yours?
Absolutely.
And that's a problem you run into.
And then I go to a conference or a workshop, and I learn how to do active listening. Right? I took a 4-hour class on how to listen. Where does that make sense? Right? But I took this 4-hour class on how to listen. I go home and I try it on my wife. And she looks at me, she goes, "Stop it."
There's a word for those conferences. It's called a pyramid scheme.
No, but that's one of the hardest things, though, is, as a chaplain, I finally get to where I'm in, and I've got officers willing to talk to me, and we're starting to get into the meat of a conversation, maybe something they're going through, and we get called out. And our conversation, it's done. Because those we start running code, I don't say a whole lot.
Yeah, no, and you should not.
Right. And so we may be on scene for 20 minutes. We may be on scene for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always just allow us to go right back into the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes it a challenge as a chaplain when I'm riding along. As a peer, I can't force them to talk, right? And then you get into a lot of it where there's a lot of agencies that, is it safe to talk to peer support? Because how does command staff feel?
Yeah, that's a big one, especially on the law enforcement side.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And they've started doing some things where they'll actually have command staff debriefs, and then they'll have, debrief for everybody else. And we mean it, but we know the reality.
Well, and I mean, so I'm kind of like, I can see both sides of that. Of yes, you want your command staff to be involved in it and show, the rank and file or whatever, that it's okay to reach out for help and look, I'm doing it too or whatever. But then there's also there's that other side of leadership that's like, should I really be sharing my issues with your subordinates, this patrol officer over here or this firefighter over here, whenever I'm a captain or a chief or a deputy, should we really be in the same room?
Right.
And I think, like, with us as firefighters, like, the things that we go through as firefighters, then as captains and battalion chiefs, like, your stressors change and your whole decision-making process. So, like, at a fire, Chris and I and Joey will be in there doing work, and one of us might get hurt, and it affects us directly, and like, oh, my friend got hurt or whatever. But then as the battalion chief who's in charge of that scene, their stressor probably would be, or could be, at least this is my own thinking because I'm not a battalion chief, but it's, okay, we were doing this. Did I really need to have that crew in there? Mm-hmm. And that guy got hurt? Mm-hmm. Could I've made a different decision and prevented that? So it's a different, I think it's a different set of problems for the same situation.
There's also, I think there's another added problem when you talk in law enforcement and you're going through mental health issues. What's the liability of keeping that officer on the street for him or her and the department?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's true in any, first, are they going to freeze in this scenario, whatever it is, and and that's why it's so hard. That's why we're we're doing more every year. We're doing more and more peer debriefs. Number one, because we're getting more and more critical incidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, they're not going down.
Right. And it's just one of those things. But this is why I know in law enforcement they do separate debriefs for the command staff than they do the rest of the officers in patrol. But there's still that thing going, am I really safe to say something? Right?
Yeah.
We're not recording, we're not writing anything down, but, and it's one of those things, there's this fear of, am I going to look weak?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I tell you what, now I'm on the outside as far as I'm not an officer, right? I don't deal with a lot of what our first responders deal with. But in my mind, I'd rather get the support and process this in a healthy manner. So I'd rather be seen as a little weak, but healthy.
Well, I mean, in reality, reaching out for that help and getting that help, that's actually a sign of strength. It's not weakness
Absolutely.
at all.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, the way that our cultures work, until you've actually gone through something like that yourself, you don't realize it. Or
Yes.
you have, because there's still that stigma, as much as we want to say that, we're making strides and we're making progress, the stigma is still there and it's still real that, well, if you need mental health help or, you're having a tough time with whatever, maybe this ain't the job for you, and that is what it is. I don't know that that's ever going to go away just because of the personality types that kind of tend to be drawn to this field. We're very alpha. We're very, what's a good word for it?
Dominant.
Yeah, not really, but nice try.
I used a synonym.
A who?
Yeah.
Oh, we're taking an English lesson, aren't we?
College boy, just sit there and be quiet.
Haterade flowing over there. It's because you couldn't hack it and dropped out. Oops.
Hey.
And scene.
Okay.
Words.
So, but yeah. So, but no, I mean, there's a very specific personality type that tends to be drawn. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other personality types drawn to the field. I mean, you have the helper and all of that stuff as well. But for the most part, I would say, at least it's been in my experience, that we're all kind of, that alpha A type, I've got this. I'm the person that does the helping. I'm good. I don't need the help. And then until you do, and then the wheels completely come off.
Well, and so often because of that strong type A personality, we need the help, but we've always said we don't need it. Mm-hmm. And now can we bring ourselves to the point where we actually say we do need it? Mm-hmm. And like you said, that's not a sign of weakness.
No, it's a sign of strength, and it's
Absolutely.
growth. I mean, and here's the thing, like, you should be growing and evolving every day of your life. The goal shouldn't be, okay, well, I'm here and I'm good. I'm just going to stay right here. No, you should always be trying to improve yourself, even just 0.5%. Every day, do something that kind of puts you out of your comfort zone, and that's how you grow and get better. Read a book.
Well, I know in law enforcement, they always go out and they practice at the gun range, right? They practice all these tactical moves.
I don't believe they practice at a gun range. That's a different conversation, though. I've seen too many videos of point blank range.
But they practice their skill sets. They practice their what they need to do to protect themselves and to protect others, right? And you've got as firefighters, I don't know what you do to improve yourself. You shoot water at stuff.
Yeah. That's exactly what we do.
No, but you guys sharpen your skills so that you're effective at what you do. You know what you need to do when everybody else is running out of the building. You're prepared to run into the building, right? Mm-hmm. And here comes the question I've got that I'm constantly asking myself is what can we do? What tools can we put in the belts of our first responders that are going to equip them to remain healthy, You know, and so one of the things we look at within our agency is what are some of the leading causes of divorce among first responders? There's finances. There's I was thinking
infidelity.
adultery.
Infidelity. Okay.
Infidelity, alcoholism,
Yeah,
or
abuse.
drug addiction, abuse.
Okay. So dependency. So what if we offer on a more consistent basis financial training, how to set a budget, live by a budget, support for that, how to teach them to live within their means.
How about set up for retirement?
Set up for
That's
retirement.
A huge stressor.
Absolutely. Because that is a stressor, especially as you get older, right?
Yeah, it's not a stressor whenever you got 2 years on the job.
Yeah.
It's a stressor when you have 18 years on the job.
Yeah.
Right. But then,
start counting your pains like, shit. 50 years, here I come.
but what if we're offering things within our agencies to strengthen marriages, to build the communication skills, to equip them how to handle conflict within the marriage? You know what I'm saying? What if we equip them and say, hey, we're going to provide childcare for the kids of first responders so that you can know your kids are safe and being taken care of, so you and your spouse can go out and spend quality time with each other for a few hours and pour into your marriage, right? And build the skills where they're going to encourage each other and build each other up and want to communicate. Actually, maybe as in a marriage, want to be together.
No.
But, you know, it's one of those things, though, where, so what we do in our agency, if we are utilized as a peer, right, the only form that we fill out, we don't put any names, we don't put any major, everything's a checkbox, right? Was it male or female? Was their topic marriage? Was it finances? Was it stress on the job? You know what I'm saying? We mark these things. Why do we do that? Because we can compile that data and see, hey, what's a trend that's happening here right now, right? And one of the things we've noticed is, hey, you know what? We've got some major budget concerns, personal finance concerns. So our agency is in the process right now of offering a program to help. In fact, from what I understand, the agency is actually paying for our personnel that want to go through this, where they're going to learn how to eliminate debt and how to, save and how to live on a budget and how to determine, hey, you know what, maybe we need to take those 2 cars that we're spending $1,500 a month on purchasing and trade those in and buy something that combined is $500 or $600 a month, because so often we're living beyond our means, which compounds to the stress. And then you're not connected because we're working all the time and we are home. We're not focused. We're disconnected. And there's all these things. And it's this vicious cycle within our marriages, within our homes. So how do we equip people? They've got to do the work because we can't work harder than they're willing to work.
Exactly.
But how do we equip them to protect their marriage and to protect their personal lives? You know what I'm saying? To give them the ability to sit and have the conversations where you can say, how are you doing? No, how are you really doing? You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's even easy for me to come up and just say, man, how you doing? Good. Okay. No, how are you really doing? Man, you know what? I'm struggling. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what if those conversations took place between spouses? We equip them to have those conversations.
Well, and those are conversations they should be having.
Absolutely.
Between spouses.
But we see so often in today's culture, people are drawing
yeah.
apart. We're getting connected with all of our friends at the agency that you're in, right? And sometimes the spouses are taken into that, and sometimes they're not, right? And if we are there, is it the healthiest environment? Not all the time.
Nope.
And so it's one of those things. But so the thing is, what resources can we keep in front of them? One of the things that we're talking through in our peer support team is how do we keep peer support in front of our people without shoving it down their throat, right? So we're talking about putting a basket with just like some bottled water and some protein bars, just stuff like this that we get donated, right? You put those around the agency with just a note that says, from your peer sport team, right? And maybe there's a little QR code that they can scan that code and boom, there's contact for our peer sport members, right?
Not a bad idea.
Easily accessible.
Yep.
They don't have to feel like they're sitting there having to write all this information. Oh, somebody might see me.
I mean, me personally, I'd rather write it down because I just learned how to use QR codes about 2 months ago. So,
but it's amazing technology. But
yeah.
but no, the thing is this though. We recognize it's hard to ask for help in a lot of situations. So what can we do to make peer support visible and available? Right, where they don't feel like they're being looked at. Hey,
Yeah.
Well,
and that's part of that stigma still.
Absolutely.
I'll take the help if nobody knows I'm getting it.
Right. Which is, if you think about it, that's part of peer support.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But at the same token, it's hey, we need some people to step up within our agencies and lead by example.
Yeah.
And say, man, there is nothing wrong with getting help to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's getting there too. It's definitely gotten better in the last 2-3 years, if not a little bit longer.
Oh, I would agree with that. When I started doing peer support, there were a lot of people that didn't talk.
Yeah.
Now it seems like in peer support debriefs, we've got a lot more people participating because I think they recognize, hey, I may say something that may help somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and like we talked about, I think the culture shift is happening.
Absolutely.
It's just we're so far behind, and it's like, oh, if we could just speed it up just a little.
What would have
bit.
happened if peer support started 40 years ago?
Well, we'd be having a different conversation. Probably.
Hopefully,
we'd be just talking about the Packers.
So
we might need peer support for that.
I don't think anybody would watch the podcast then.
Yeah. Oh,
We'd be huge in Wisconsin.
There you go.
And?
Do you know where Wisconsin is?
No.
Okay.
Why are you such a hater?
Because it irritates you and it's fun for me.
It's all right. KU's about to go down to a number 16 team, so
Ooh.
Yeah, no.
you'll get
I'll
that.
take that bet. Now, the second round, been known
Maybe.
to happen.
Bucknell.
Yeah, we'll have.
Who was it that Duke lost to in the second round a couple years ago?
Lehigh.
Lehigh, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, everybody. It
I mean, when
happens.
you're a number one seed almost every year, like a number one or number two, you're going to get upset.
Yeah. Law of averages
Yeah.
says it's going to happen.
But you just hope it's not in March Madness.
Well, no, that's when it's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, but even in regular season, watching some of these losses, it's like,
Oh,
really?
man, any team can beat
Yeah.
any other team on any night.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
it takes is a couple hot shooters and your team's cold. Or
I think there was one upset that just it was so out in left field last year that the odds of somebody winning was like a 0.001% of
That
winning
was-
their
are you
bracket.
talking about the
There were-
Virginia?
There were
I
a
can't
couple of
remember.
them, weren't there?
It was. I know there was one for sure. I mean, I don't follow
Well,
basketball too much, but I just know.
UMBC was a number 16 seed, and they beat Virginia, who was a number 1 seed. It's the only time it's ever happened.
And that was like, what, 3 years ago now?
I
4
want to
years
say it was
ago?
like 2018.
Something like that, because Virginia lost, and the next year they won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
mean, that
sucks.
was a great turnaround for them.
Kind of sucks that it could happen again tonight, isn't it?
I know. My guess would be
Never
tomorrow
say
night.
never.
I mean,
Tomorrow night.
Duke's playing. Duke's what, a 2 seed? Yeah, they could lose. The way their season's been going,
Would not be shocked.
they're Jekyll and Hyde. They really are.
Yeah.
I mean, they smoked North Carolina at North Carolina,
And then
got
got
the
smoked.
pants
Got
beat off of
smoked.
them at Cameron Indoor on Coach K's last game on senior night. I couldn't believe it.
Oh yeah,
They've been that way, though.
And then they lost to
Vitek
Virginia Tech in
by almost 20.
the ACC championship. I was like, because I expected Duke to come out and just blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
I was half paying attention. I looked up. I was like, oh,
My thing is, how do you guys remember all these details?
it's
Well,
I can't remember what
it's
I
a
wore
gift.
yesterday.
it's a gift.
So Chris and I used to the first full day of the tournament, and sometimes the first 2 days of the tournament, we would get together and we'd alternate houses, and it would just be okay, at 11 o'clock in the morning when the games start, I'll be there. And then we would sit there and watch basketball until 11 o'clock at night whenever it was over. We don't do that anymore.
Not as, I mean, we try, but I mean, things just, you get older, both married.
You got podcasts.
Yeah, we got podcasts. We're on.
Podcast is messing up my night right now.
We're just about done.
I was about to put it on my phone and be like, oh, that's interesting.
I'm taking that personal right about now.
Don't. He says this every episode. I get a text message for every time he's going to be here.
Yeah.
Hey, let's make it a short one tonight.
Yep.
Why are you coming? Don't bother.
Because you
I'm asking the same thing. Why'd he come?
Because he begs.
He hates Wisconsin.
Man.
Wisconsin. Hey.
Well,
I just like the cheese curds. They're delicious.
They're good.
They were delicious.
They're good.
I like Wisconsin in the 2-week summer they get. I really do. It's
2 weeks. Growing up in Wisconsin,
state. It really is.
where I grew up in La Crosse, the Mississippi is what separates us from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
And
Yeah.
so, but I remember they'd have these mayflies. They're they call them dragonflies. They're they were so heavy going over the bridge that they would have to get snowplows and plow them off the bridge.
Oh my gosh.
Because they'd be so thick. It was like cars that hit them, it would be like ice, and they'd be having accidents. What? So they plow them off the bridge, and eventually they put these grids on there that when they die and fall on the deck, they just get squished through the grid and all that stuff. But they had to change out with special lighting that wouldn't attract them as much and all that stuff. It was crazy. Yeah, you just drive over the bridge, there's mounds of these dead. That's Wisconsin.
All right, not going back there.
Highlights.
Sure you don't want to take that motorcycle trip through there?
Yeah, I think I'm going to pass on that one.
Oh, but the Mississippi's beautiful but dirty.
Yeah.
No, it was a great place to grow up and great football team. Baseball, they have their years.
Yeah. The Brewers, really? They have their years? Okay.
When
I can be
was the
wishful.
last time they were good?
I can be wishful.
I was upset when they got Locaine from us. I miss Locaine.
That was our fault.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You win a World Series
And
and
sell everybody.
Everybody
wants your
to go.
players.
Yeah.
It was like, we're good. Oh, we're back to what we were.
Oh, we suck again.
I mean, how many former Royals players went on to win World Series with other teams?
All of them, probably.
I can name Ben Zobrist right off the bat. He
yeah.
won one with us and then
Johnny
went
Damon.
to the there you go.
Well, he went to Boston, though. That's
Yeah.
Again, I slept. I don't remember any of these guys.
Yeah, I don't. Sports have always kind of stuck in my head.
Yeah.
So
My kids are the same way. My boys with basketball, even football, they can just the stats and the names and all this stuff.
Yeah, I can't do the stats. I don't follow enough to give you, that kind of stuff, but I can remember games and kind of who did what.
plays
Mm-hmm.
if they really stand out.
Started when I was a kid. It was Christian Okoye for me. That's when it started.
But you know what? Talking about the stuff to remember, so much of it's with our support of our first responder. Segue is what we call that.
There you go. Redirect the conversation.
Pulling it back in.
Yeah.
So, no, but it comes down to the consistent training of our peers as well. We've got to have competent peers. It's like any other skill. You have to stay sharp on it.
Yeah,
You have to know, hey, what are the new terms? What are the new things? It's changing by all the time. I mean, the terms that I'm hearing now are social media depression and social media anxiety. And
No.
You're gonna get me on a
Don't
soapbox.
get on a soapbox.
and I'm not trying to go there. I'm just saying, but okay, if this is legitimately out there, is this another thing that because what are our first responders seeing on social media?
Yeah,
Especially it's the things that they're connected to, but it's the training, it's the keeping it fresh. I got this stack of workbooks and notebooks from all the trainings I've done. And I try to go through one or two a month just to flip through the notes. And there's a lot of similar stuff, schism, and here's the definition, and all that kind of,
Yeah.
there's all this stuff, but then I'm always like, oh, there's that one nugget,
Yeah.
but hey, you know what? I've hopefully got it retained. So it's just like you guys, there's so much part of your job that's just second nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you don't have to think about it. It just happens. Well, when we're in crisis mode, which is not uncommon for peer support, somebody's in crisis. We've got to be sharp and prepared, and
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point that you brought up of the stressors now aren't just like the job stressors of running that bad call or whatever. Whenever you start throwing social media into it and all of the world has changed so much just since we've come on the job. We'll have 18 years in July. Social media really wasn't a thing back then. And, cameras on cell phones, and like we touched on that before.
Well, the media always gets it right too. So.
Yeah. That's another soapbox. You're trying my patience.
You'll never have me back.
I didn't say that. That could be a good episode. Just you say stuff that just sets me off on a soapbox. Just ramble.
This is the way we set them off, and this is how we bring them back down.
I don't think the
And this
internet has
training
enough-
video is now complete.
There's
This
not
is
enough
where-
internet for that soapbox.
This is where active listening comes in.
Yeah. So, but the stressors have changed, and the things that we have to deal with has changed. And, that's up to us, and as well as, peer support and everything. You have to stay on top of all that stuff to know how you can help.
See,
And
I don't think they've changed. They've been added to.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Has it changed or has it compounded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely compounded.
Better way to say it. Yes, absolutely.
College boy.
Man,
See?
I only did 2.5 years there, man.
I squeezed 5 into 9 and still didn't graduate.
He's like your brother.
He graduated. He's got a good degree.
Oh,
We usually call those people doctors. if
Yeah,
they spent
well,
9
I've got
years.
enough schooling. And
Yeah.
I am starting classes again in 3 weeks for a
See?
biblical counseling certification where I'll be specializing in grief and trauma.
There's,
Yeah.
there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, and
One class at a time to get your degree or your training is not a problem.
And here's where
Especially
it
as an
is.
adult.
Again, we talk about competency. It's what I've learned as a pastor is most churches are really good about when crisis happens in people's life, when they lose somebody they love, we're good about loving on them. We're good about providing meals and caring for them, but we really don't know how to take people through their grief, right? We really don't know how to help them when they've gone through that bad divorce or the sudden unexpected loss of somebody, and been able to counsel them through that traumatic event, but also being able to tie that in for me outside of the church setting into the first responder setting,
Oh, yeah. It's tough.
and just being available and just, if I've got relationships within first responders, man, I can serve them in this way and then refer them to people like your wife.
yeah. Yep. If they need a higher level of care, and that's the thing to remember with peer support is it's a stopgap of, if we can handle this, cool. If not, then we'll get you somebody who can.
Yeah. The big thing about
So-
peer support is you got to know what your limit is.
Yeah.
We are not counselors,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and hey, I need to stop here and I need to encourage you to get connected
Yeah.
at this level. How can we aid you in that now?
Yeah.
So I mean, the big part is getting that ball rolling.
Absolutely.
That-
And
sometimes it's just that little push.
but it's also accountability. Hey, we had this conversation. You said this. Where are we at with this?
Yeah.
What can I help you with? Right? It's not you're a blanking liar and you didn't follow, it's hey, how can I help make this happen?
Yeah.
It's also celebrating the little things.
Yeah.
When there is progress made,
Mm-hmm.
how can we celebrate that? How can we rally around them and say, man, well done. Proud of you.
Yeah. Well, that's something everybody should be doing in their own life anyway, is you got to celebrate those small successes. The small successes lead to big successes. So,
Details matter.
They do.
It's Jack Reacher line.
It's a great show.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm gonna watch it. I've watched it twice.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna go for a third.
All right. On that note,
Well, when KU's out of the tournament, you'll have plenty of time.
It'll be next weekend.
I like it. Nice parting shot.
Says the Wisconsin guy.
Yeah.
You're good.
All right.
If they lose, though, we're having a conversation.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we just kind of started rolling, but kind of got to wrap it up a little early tonight. If you have any parting thoughts,
Man, I would just encourage anybody that's watching, use the resources available. Lean on your peers that are healthy.
yes,
Within our agencies, we've got people that are not healthy we don't need to lean on. We need to take care of ourselves so we can then help others. And I look at it this way too. If we are handling our personal struggles or demons, whatever it may be, we need to deal through those so that we can do our jobs effectively. We can remain safe because we are clear-minded.
Yeah.
And use the resources that are available and keep watching this podcast.
Boom. Nice. Mic drop. And we're out. So, all right. Everybody, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. If you are struggling, like Kip said, reach out. Use those resources. They are available to you. Yeah. And if you know somebody that's struggling, reach out to them. Let them know that you care. Get them hooked up with some resources, peer support, a counselor, something. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.